Hello, myself Sunil Ramakrishna. Here basically we are discussing another topic, that is seating issue. So here basically we are discussing that basically. So one of the person told that basically in IT industry basically how they are going to do the verification basically. So that was basically very interesting question basically. We basically discussed about the Bollywood. We basically discussed about the Bollywood basically how they are doing the future data verification. So how IT industry basically is going to do the future verification. So one of the person told that basically this was very interesting question basically, and that basically connects like this. That is text box equal to 1,000 cities. So 1,000 city basically is there. That 1,000 city basically is going to few city basically is going to end basically, and few cities basically are going to end, and that city basically which is ended now basically that basically gets removed from the matrix basically, and then basically the few new city basically which is already created basically that will get merged basically in the text box equal to 1,000 city basically. Like this basically one of the verification basically the higher level of the IT industry basically are going to do. So this text box equal to 1,000 city basically that is higher level group basically. Now basically the lower level group basically, that is the TCS, Accenture, this whole company basically are doing to do the verification. How basically that CRM example basically I have taken basically, then I told that yes basically that CRM example basically is going to connect with new ideas basically. For example, they basically power company basically send the CRM example, and in this CRM example basically they are going to do some little bit changes in the ideas basically, but they are going to do the change basically. They are 98% 100% basically going to do the change basically. The reason they have to do the verification basically, why? Because they want to keep the control of IT industry. So one of the person told that basically Sunil R. Nair is not getting the job basically. That is also basically they are doing the verification basically, that Sunil R. Nair is not supposed to get the job. So that is also basically one of the verification basically. So they are going to do the verification basically. They are 100% going to do the verification basically. That Sunil R. Nair is basically not getting the job basically. So that verification they are going to do basically. So they are going to do basically. So one of the person told that you Sunil R. Nair is not getting the marriage, not getting the second marriage, and then basically because second marriage will not happen until basically he is not going to get the good job basically. Then he told that yes basically he is not getting the job. So this is basically planned by one of the group basically. So one of the person told that basically if you finish that group only basically, then that who basically is coming in between the second marriage basically. One of the satellite group told that basically they basically thought lot basically. Then they thought that basically if you finish that second marriage basically, not they are the group basically who are basically allowing, who are basically creating the problem to second marriage basically. If you finish that group only, then basically that suggestion basically one of the satellite group basically given. Then basically one of the person told that basically in India basically it's a union basically. So basically you have to leave the India only basically. If you want to do the second marriage, basically. Then basically one of the person told that basically if we exit Sunil R. Nair basically from India basically, then basically one of the person told that your biodata basically you are not getting a single interview call. That means basically your biodata is also basically blocked by the one of the group basically, and your mobile number is also basically blocked by the cyber group and the police department basically. Then one of the person told that basically if you finish the entire police department only, then basically they will do the unblock basically. Then one of the person told that basically police department basically they are doing the unblock basically. No basically they are basically not doing that. They are basically just telling basically. They are just passing the rules and regulation basically, and according to that basically the unblock block happens basically. So few people basically given this type of idea also basically. So let's say like this basically there are lots of people basically who keeps on giving the ideas basically. And this example basically we just now basically we saw na basically IT industry idea basically, that is CRM project basically. That is also one of the ideas basically which keeps on changing basically. This keeps on changing. CRM project basically, project manager basically who are going to do the analysis na basically, they keeps on changing. Their ideas basically keeps on changing basically. That's why basically nowadays basically the IT industry basically project manager, the group basically who are doing the coding, the groups basically are into the testing department, into the quality department, they basically can't sit for 4 to 5 hours also basically in front of the computer basically. Why? There is basically reason basically that basically they can't sit basically doing the programming basically, doing the analysis, doing the project management task basically. Reason, this verification basically is ongoing, and there are basically, I am 100% telling you basically 98% basically that from 1000 cities lots of city basically are finished basically. And in this basically one more thing basically, the cities basically are created also basically in somewhere basically place basically, and that also basically I am telling you basically that is basically city basically, or basically might be the country basically, that is basically in between the sea basically. And within that sea basically, that new text box equal to 1000 city, few city basically are created also basically. Like this basically the IT industry basically, who created the IT industry basically, they are doing the verification. And like this basically the software company who are basically handling, who are basically keeping the control of software industry basically, they are doing the verification of software industry basically. Like this basically they are checking basically that this new CRM basically software which has going to come now basically, that basically contains this new ideas or not basically not basically. So you can just imagine basically up to what level things basically are connected. Reason basically I will tell you. Assume that basically few idea basically are generated. Assume that basically, and the old basically idea basically are disconnected. Old basically ideas are disconnected. Assume that basically. So he told that yes basically. So new idea basically are going to connect basically after certain level of thinking basically. After certain level of thinking. So that is basically going to connect to certain level of ideas basically. So one of the person told that yes basically. So like this basically the IT industry basically are doing the verification, and they have mostly basically done the verification also basically. And here basically we will see one example basically how basically the IT industry is going to do the verification. Vitamin A, that basically contains this everything basically, then into the layers basically. These all things basically it contains. So this also basically we have discussed. So in basically IT industry basically are going to do which type of verification? The new ideas basically which has generated basically in the form of data basically, that is going to generate this blast area basically, the blast data basically, and that's very dangerous basically. That's very dangerous basically. So one of the person told that you have to do the verification, you have to do the blast, you have to do basically. Why? The reason is this basically. This much is the reason basically, nothing else basically. Reason, this everything basically is going to create some data basically in universe basically. Going to create some data in universe basically. So you have to create you have to do the verification basically. Like this basically the Microsoft has done the verification. What verification? That basically we have already discussed, and after that basically we left the Microsoft also basically, because Microsoft verification is completely done basically, because Microsoft is basically doing the verification. If they are not going to do the verification, then basically they are going to finish the entire Microsoft generation basically. They are basically going to finish, sorry, they are the Microsoft people basically who created the Microsoft, no basically, they are going to finish the entire Microsoft generation only basically, because Microsoft generation basically contains lots of birth also basically. So assume that basically 5 crore of Microsoft family basically is there. So they are going to finish the entire 5 crore only basically. So it's very dangerous. You have to do the verification. In next video, basically, we are going to show a little bit more about this.